Well, our military analyst, Sean Bell, is here. Sean, just tell us what is the latest on the ground?
Yeah, good morning, Jane. The IDF claim now, you know, their ground offensive, they were trying to cut off north and south. They've said they've now got themselves to the coast. The Salah al-Din highway, which is the main highway that splits down north to south Gaza, goes across the Wadi Gaza. They'd cut that off, but there were loads of other crossing points. They've now severed those completely. They've also claimed that 450 Hamas targets have been struck in the last 24 hours, and they also claim that a Hamas security commander has also been killed as well. Now, it's worth pointing out in the semi-rural environment where the IDF are operating at the moment, there's lots of fields around and stuff like that. That favours the IDF. They're a major military power. And although Hamas are popping up and doing hit-and-run tactics, now, the Hamas claim they've actually destroyed 4 IDF vehicles and a tank since dawn this morning. But again, we can't verify that. It's also worth pointing out the US claim that one of their nuclear submarines is now in the region. That adds to the 2 carrier groups that are out in the Mediterranean, which we heard about yesterday.
So where do you think this is going next?
Well, most of the challenge at the moment is they're tightening the noose around Gaza City. But from a military perspective, what are the objectives of this next phase? It's all very well saying kill all Hamas, but Hamas, some of them will have fled. Is it to seize the city? What next? But we are expecting that next phase to start in the next 24 to 48 hours. It will undoubtedly be very infantry heavy. They'll be using a lot of reconnaissance drones along the way. But the urban environment absolutely favours the defenders. It will favour Hamas. And then you factor in the Gaza metro of tunnels underneath, which will provide another great advantage. The air power is the interesting one. We've seen airstrikes. The master target list has been struck ever since the start of this campaign. Now you get Israeli soldiers on the ground. Are we going to see less of that? I think it's just going to change slightly because if Hamas get cornered in a building, hunkered down, either the Israeli Defence Force have to go in on foot, which would be incredibly dangerous. You can't really use artillery because the arc of artillery will hit buildings. So you probably will use close air support. You'll very, very carefully coordinate the use of air power to strike the enemy target very close to your own positions. The challenge is, though, in that Gaza metro, that the Hamas will hide underground, so it's going to be incredibly difficult for the IDF this next phase.
And just looking at these images, of course, we don't know how many civilian casualties there are, and at the moment, communications are out. There's no means of people communicating with people inside Gaza, which makes it very difficult for us to actually know what really is going on there at the moment. You're
absolutely right, and some of that may be down to military tactics to cut off comms. Some of it just may be the dreadful situation there. But I think there's going to be 3 main challenges facing the IDF, one of which is that tunnel network we've talked about. This is outside the Sheikh Hamas hospital, and if we zoom in closer, you know, this is part of the access to the tunnel network, right next to the hospital. And now the IDF claim that these tunnels are being used to hide Hamas, give them a sanctuary, store weapons. If that is true, then they become a completely legitimate target. Very difficult for the IDF. The second challenge that they'll face is that they'll be using precision weapons, IDF using precision weapons. They either hit the target or they miss by a long margin. And the IDF's Iron Dome, which is part of the picture here, there was one of the missiles that was shot up last night that actually went wrong and actually fell into Israel itself. Those are some of the challenges. But finally, in the middle of the city, obviously, they'll also have the civilians. You want to protect those, but Hamas will be operating out, not wearing a uniform. How on earth does the IDF work out who the good guys and the bad guys are? And frankly, the third major point is what happens next. At the moment, Gaza is going to be it's being destroyed street by street, block by block. What are the residents, when they come back, what are they going to come back to? And what is Prime Minister Netanyahu's plan for the future? It's not entirely clear that this will be one thought through. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation is spiralling out of control, and this next phase doesn't look like it's going to help the hostage situation one bit.